Hi, everyone, and welcome to A Heart for Writing. I'm Joan Raymond, author and writing coach. And today we're going to be talking about starting a travel blog and answering the questions of how to get one started and what if you don't travel to all the exotic locations? What if can you just do a travel blog from your own um, your city or your state? So we're going to get to that in just a minute. But first of all, I want to introduce my guest. Today, I'm going to be talking with travel blogger Joan Lindsay Kerr. She's a former teacher of gifted students, now a guide at the Monterey Bay Aquarium in California. Joan maintains two travel blogs, journaling the adventures and travels that she and her husband Rob have taken. To date, they've visited over 40 countries and on 6 continents. So let me bring Joan into the studio. Hi, Joan.
Hi, Joan.
So this is the Joan and Jones show today.
It is.
So you actually developed a sense of wandering, a wanderlust, when you were 12 because your family, you guys moved a lot. So tell me about that.
We did. My dad was a geologist, and his work took him all over the American Southwest. So we moved an average about every year and a half.
Wow.
So he really loved to take us as we would travel. We would explore the states that we were living in at the time. So we got to see the old ruins in New Mexico, the beautiful mesas and Mesa Verde, Utah, Colorado. We lived in Texas for a while, which was an adventure all in itself. And so I got used to moving around. When I got to high school, I met kids who had known each other since kindergarten, and I was
Wow.
genuinely shocked because I
Yeah,
didn't know people lived like that.
that's funny. So you actually your goal was to travel abroad.
Mhm,
And that happened through UC, which is University of California, right?
mhm.
Education abroad program. Talk about your year in Norway and how that changed everything.
It was an amazing year. I had not had the opportunity to travel abroad. So when I got the announcement that they were recruiting students for their next year's adventure, um, I I picked. They actually asked me to pick Sweden first, and I was all signed up to go to Sweden. And they started in the interim. They before I left, they started a brand new program in Norway. So I was one of the pilot group of students to
Wow.
go to Norway. I was there for a full year. We had 3 months at the University of Oslo to study a crash course in Norwegian, which I did not speak. And then the rest of the year, 9 months in the city of Bergen on the west coast of Norway, which is absolutely beautiful. Norway is one of the most gorgeous countries on the planet with the fjords, the forests, the mountains. And I met students there from all over the world who were studying at the international program. So it was very eye opening. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience, every bit of it.
Yeah, and then it says you were also in Europe too, so you went to different places
I
in
did.
Europe.
Well,
Yeah.
we use that time. They have a nice long Christmas break. And my girlfriend and I, for Christmas, we asked our parents for Eurail passes. And this was back in the days, this was 1970. That was
Mhm.
when Eurail passes really got you everywhere. You could just get on the train and go. They're a
Right.
little more restrictive now. So we went down to Italy. We went through Germany on the train and explored Italy. So that was, again, my first real international traveling experience, and then came back to Norway through Paris. So it was
Wow,
wonderful.
that's awesome. And so you and your husband, you've been to 40 countries and you've been
43
on
now.
40, okay, 43. And you've been on 6 continents. I have to ask, I almost know which one, but which is the one you haven't been
No, we
on?
have not been to Antarctica yet. And yes, we are talking about it, but it's very expensive to go there. So we'll see. It might
Yeah.
happen. I would like it to.
Just so you can tick it off the box and you can say, I've
Yeah,
been to
yeah.
every
Also because
continent.
I have talked to several people who have been there, and
Mhm.
they say it is an incredible experience. So if
That's what
we
I've heard.
can, we
Yeah.
will.
That'll be amazing. So I have some pictures here that Joan has on her blogs, and so I'm just going to flip through these. So this is New Hampshire, United States, um, Tanzania. To me, that's amazing that you would be that close.
Yeah.
And then this one has the little one. That's so sweet. And very colorful. And you said this is your favorite chateau. Why is this your favorite chateau?
It's just charming. It's small,
Mhm.
so it's very it's sort of fairy tale. Look at the little turrets and
Oh,
things and the little moat around it. It's just delightful.
and did you stay in it?
No, we did not. We
Okay.
actually stayed in a 8th century monastery that had been converted and certainly rebuilt
Uh-huh.
in Chinon, which is
Okay.
near the Loire Valley, where that chateau was. We toured 3 of the chateaus, and we
Wow.
want to go back because there are lots more.
Oh, I'm sure, you could go to the same country, the same area a bunch of
Over and
times, and
over.
yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
one of the dilemmas of traveling, actually, is that you love certain places, you want to go back, but there's so much world out there still to see.
yeah, that's true. Um, so you said you don't consider any trip complete until you've written stories about your adventures.
For one thing, when you travel, life is so full of new experiences, and you're very often very busy going from one thing to another. You forget what happened. If I don't write it down, I'll be turning to my husband and saying, "What did we do day before yesterday?" So I have to write it down. And it really does. I love it because it brings it all back. I'll forget, and then I'll go back and read an entry and go, "Oh, that's right, we did that." And it all comes flooding back. So writing about it really helps keep it accessible.
Right. I know my husband and I, we took a 4-week trip. We drove all the way to Florida and then up to Minnesota and then came back. And every day, every night, I would just write down where we started, where we
Mhm.
ended, how much mileage, because I mean, we're driving and the places that we saw. Because otherwise, yeah, after so many weeks, it's like, were we in New Mexico yesterday or was it Mississippi? I don't remember anymore.
Exactly.
So for our viewers and everyone that's tuned in to see how to start a travel blog, let's talk about how you got started. So you had to find a platform, a
Mhm.
blogging type platform. Do you have one that you recommend, or does any old blogging platform do?
Well, probably. There are a couple. I have used 2.
Mhm.
My platform now is on Google. I started there. It's because it was a free platform, and it's googleblogspot.com. But I have given up the blogspot in my address. I bought the domain for Travels with Robbie.
Mhm.
And it's very reasonable for maintaining that platform in your own name with Google. People recommended WordPress, and I understand it probably is a bit more professional in terms of setting up a platform, but it was a bit more expensive. And for me, a little harder to manipulate. The Google platform is very intuitive, very easy to use. And probably with more practice, I could have also worked my way through the WordPress with no problem because I did use it, but I did have help getting that one set up. And I ended up preferring the Google one anyway, because for me, it's very easy. They give
Right.
you a lot of choices of backgrounds and, uh, how your format, what it looks like. So it's pretty easy to use.
So
So I would recommend,
Blogspot is it, right? Okay.
yeah, the Blogspot.
A-
Yeah.
And so basically you can get a Blogspot blog for free. And
Yep.
then I know if you want to get your own domain name, because I have several that I've purchased, that's from 1999 to 29.99 a year. So basically we're talking dollars a day or
Yeah.
less.
It's
Yeah.
very inexpensive. Yeah.
Okay. Now you did say that you take notes. So do you take notes during the day as you're doing things, or do you stop at night and then it's like write everything down?
When I have a guide, sometimes we often travel independently, but once in a while we'll join a tour or get a tour during the day with a local guide. And I will have a little notebook where I just jot down things that are shared with me, because they're things that I don't already know or can't figure out myself. So just quick notes, just so I remember certain things. Because I'm really interested in the art, the history, the culture of the places we go. So that helps to let me know what's important to include. But I always, at night, I take the time, or one good thing is I don't nap, but Rob does. So when he's napping, I will very frequently sit down with my laptop and just type up what happened that day.
Okay. And then do you post while you're on the road if there's Wi-Fi? No. Okay. You wait
No,
until
I
you come
don't.
home.
Yeah, I probably could, but I like to take a little more time to polish it a bit before I post it. So I do post on Facebook frequently. In fact, my blog is a little behind now because I've been posting directly to Facebook. So it tends to be a little more casual, and I just sort of throw out everything that's there, but then I try to polish it up for the blog.
Yes. Okay. Um, and then what about writing skills? Do you think the person would have to be a prolific writer? I mean, I know you wouldn't have to be a quote unquote published writer as in, books and everything else, but how do you feel about skill level writing a blog?
Partly depends on what you want your audience to be, who you want your audience to be. If you're writing for yourself and keeping it for your own memories, maybe just for family, then I would say it wouldn't be probably as important. But yes, if you want a blog that people are going to be interested in actually reading, it probably helps to have some proficiency with writing. There are certain things when you're traveling that you want to be sure to capture in your writing.
Okay.
Um,
Like
try
what?
You want to give a picture of what this place was like, with not only the sights, because you've got your pictures to back up what the sights are, but what were using all your senses. What were the sounds around you? What were the smells? Because we love to go to open markets. It's one of the funnest places. You showed a picture of the chilies in a
Yes.
market in Thailand, and they're so colorful and just beautiful. And the people, the vendors are shouting, and so you want to capture that excitement. Who are the people there? What does it smell like? What are the flavors? I'm not a typical blogger in the sense that I'm writing, these are the 5 most romantic places in Paris. I don't
Yeah.
review restaurants, but if we have a particularly good meal, I might describe that, say we
Mhm.
went to this restaurant and this was really great because, but I'm really writing more on Travels with Robbie, my first blog. I'm really writing more a journal of our travels, but I'm also writing it with an eye to the reader. I don't want to just say, well, we went here, we did this, although there's probably some of that there. But I'm trying to share what it's really like there. What is the culture there? Who are the people we met there? What's the religion? What are the beliefs? We had a wonderful discussion with an imam in Turkey, for example, and it was just fascinating. So putting in, things that people might not know about already.
That's fascinating. Yeah, because I was just going to ask about the 5 senses and about the people you meet. I'm sure you've met so many fascinating um, locals, and I'm sure there's some interesting tourists, that you've met too. So
Absolutely. I've made some lifelong friendships on our
that's
travels, people I still correspond with, which is
that's
really nice.
cool. That's very cool. So, what do you just? How do you decide what to write about? I mean, do you write about only all the good stuff that happens? Do you write about, oh, we had this challenge and the plane broke down and it poured down rain and my
Yeah,
husband broke his arm, which actually did
which
happen
you
on one
did.
of your trips?
um, Again, that's where the second blog comes in, because
Okay.
the first blog is more of a journal. I sort of throw everything in there, trying to pare it down where it would be readable. But the second blog is a story blog where I take specific incidents that happened on our travels. And this is focusing more on the problems you face when you travel, make some of the best stories,
Yes.
like Rob breaking his arm. Um, Our,
That was in Greece, right? Was that Greece?
that was in Greece, our first trip to Greece, yes. And he fell the very second day of the trip. Yep. Marble steps. Greece is full of marble steps, but these were wet marble steps, and down he went. So, yeah. I didn't actually make a story about that. I do have a blog post about it, but we went in Costa Rica, for example, on a quest for the resplendent quetzal, a gorgeous, gorgeous bird. And we went specifically to go see it in the Monteverde cloud forest and tromped through the mud and the jungle for hours. And the story has a surprise ending, so I'm not going to share it.
Okay. Yes, you have to read it. And by the way, there will be links to Joan's 2 blogs in the description, and anything else that we've talked about, there'll be links in the description. So, so for those of us that don't travel abroad, we don't go to exotic locations. I mean, I go to the coast. We've gone, all the way across the United States and back. I mean, what about somebody like me? Is that good enough to start a travel blog?
Oh, absolutely. I think I actually have one post. I don't do this kind of post very often, a how-to or a here are tips, but I do have one post about blogging about your own neighborhood,
Oh, wow.
about your own area. I'm very fortunate to live in a place that has a lot of beautiful state parks and things, and certainly that gives you food for a blog. But again, lots of people do blogs about the special things about their local area. What are the restaurants to go to? What are the sites that a visitor from somewhere else would want to see? So you could certainly highlight your own local area. I've certainly blogged about other places I have several posts about travel in the Southwest or in New England. So yeah, closer to home is always still has lots of food for blogging.
I'm sure. I mean, with California, there are so many places I haven't been. I mean, there's a lot of places I've been, but I can think of a lot of places. And, just the thought of going there so you can write about it is kind of a cool thing too, because aren't you more observant? Aren't you more in a different frame of mind when you realize that, oh, I'm going to be actually writing about this? So you start seeing it differently, right?
Absolutely. That's part of the reason with the notebook. When something occurs that I want to be sure to remember, I can jot it down because I know I'm going to be writing about it. And so it does make a difference. And you also seek out more interesting things to see or do because of that, because you want to have something interesting to write about. So, but sometimes a lot of the most serendipitous things have happened when we've gone off our itinerary and just gone exploring, or something happened where we couldn't do this, so we do that instead, and it turns out to be one of the best adventures.
I know my husband and I, when we travel, we don't make hotel or motel reservations. We just go as far as we can, and then we look for a local restaurant, and we've never been disappointed. The one that has a bazillion cars outside, and it's not a food chain. And we found the most amazing places with amazing people, in those places. So, now along with your own blogs, I should say, you've had a few stories published. And they've been on travel websites such as Globejotting and Triptopedia. Can you talk about those? Can anybody submit stories to those kind of places, or?
You can. Triptopedia is actually, they are looking for writers. They're looking for people to contribute because they are a website that does things like the 10 top sites in Turkey. And so they want people who have been there, who have that experience. So just go on their website, triptopedia.com, I think it is.
Yeah, I'll put it in the link in the description.
And so if you have an idea, write something up and send it to them. And yes, they take submissions all the time. Globejotting is actually run by Dave Fox. He is a travel writer. He's written a book on travel journaling that's excellent, Globejotting, which is Globejotting, how to enjoy your trip and still have time to write, or something like that. Or how to write about your trip and still have time to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of good tips on travel blogging. That's and
He
Dave
has a
does.
newsletter. Doesn't he have a newsletter or something too that
He
he sends
does.
out?
He does. And on his blog, he does invite people to submit things. He teaches travel writing classes. And I
Okay.
think a lot of the submissions come from his students. So he offers those classes from time to time. So if you go to globejotting.com,
Mhm.
then you can look at his blog and watch for upcoming classes that he might be teaching.
That's great. That's great. Because anytime that, I mean, having your own blog and being published that way is great. But then if you can get published on another person's site, that's awesome too.
Right, right. And it
So
brings attention to your own blog too, if because he always shares where it came from. So that's good.
right, yeah, because then it brings people back to your stories too. So that's a good idea. So we're almost at the end here. Do you have anything else to add? Any advice for people just starting out?
I think blogging is just a nice, flexible way to share really anything you're interested in. It doesn't have to be about travel. It's a good way to share your thoughts on politics, to share funny stories. I mean, there's so many things you can do with blogging. So certainly for travel, as I said, it's such a good way to remember your trips because you can go back years later and it just all comes flooding back.
Yeah. So for the person just wanting to start out, what would your advice be? Just jump in?
Yeah, really, just jump in. Decide you probably it's best to have sort of a cohesive theme to your blog. Although some people just write about their thoughts on any topic that happens to come to them, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So yeah, if you're the kind of person who likes to write down your thoughts, who likes to share them with other people, then this is a great way to do that.
And if you're going to be a travel blogger, then you have that theme and you let people know that this is what it's going to be about. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And I know you said you haven't blogged in a little while. So one thing about a blog is you can kind of let it go a little bit and then come back to it. I mean, you're not like, you don't have to write every single day or,
Yeah, it depends again on how committed you are to having, it helps to build an audience to be more regular.
right.
Um, I'm planning to go back and take all those Facebook posts that I've done and get them transferred over to the blog. Life sometimes gets in the way, but yeah, if you don't care about sending out a monthly news, because one thing you can do, send out like a monthly newsletter and say, okay, here are the things that we've been doing lately, check out the blog. And I rarely do that, so that's up to your own personal style.
Okay.
It can be done either way.
Yep. It is. It's what's comfortable for you because you don't
Right.
want to get it to be such a grind that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't deal with this anymore.
Mhm.
Like some people blog 3 times a week and
Yep.
that's a lot, but
Right. I
some
go in
people
spurts.
you batch blog.
I do. Yes.
Anyway, to check out Joan's blogs and those sites that she gave us, Globetrotting and Triptopedia, those links will be in the description. And I want to thank everybody for watching today. Thank you, Joan. I really appreciate all the information.
Thank you, Joan, for having me. It was fun.
So anyway, I want to say thank you for watching today. And if you enjoyed this, if you saw something that really shouted out to you that helped you, I appreciate it if you would subscribe and like my channel. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.